Today's investigation will lead the psychics to a chilling secret of the British royal family. Who is really involved in Princess Diana's death? Don't miss out. The truth will surprise everyone. This is Psychic Investigations, a channel of true and shocking stories. Here, people who call themselves clairvoyants investigate resonant criminal cases and unbelievable paranormal phenomena. This is Tetiana from Ukraine. She is convinced that her children and beloved husband are being targeted by her late brother-in-law, Serhiy, who died 6 months ago.
He died after a vessel burst in his brain.
My brother was absolutely fine. He got up for work at 6 in the morning, as usual, but when he started dressing, he collapsed, and that was it.
Yet, no one could have imagined that after the funeral, the man's spirit would start appearing in Bohdan's dreams, calling him to the other side.
He appeared in my husband's dream and told him to follow him.
The next day, while Bohdan was working at a construction site, a sheet of drywall fell right on his head. He covered his head with his hand, in which he was holding a utility knife. The sharp blade cut his arm.
It cut all my veins and tendons. As a result, my 4 fingers are non-functional now.
Then the man's spirit appeared in the dream of Tetiana's eldest son, 15-year-old Dennis. After that, the teenager suffered a very unusual seizure.
His eyes rolled back and he swallowed his tongue.
Dennis was saved by a miracle. Doctors suspected epilepsy, but found no abnormalities or pathologies indicating this disease. He later told Tetiana that he saw a dream of his deceased uncle Serhiy, who told him that he too would soon be gone.
The psychics are my last hope.
2 of our strongest experts, a psychic from Azerbaijan, Kayal Alekperov, and a British medium, Anna Galliers, took on this case. However, just before Anna Galliers' flight from London to Kiev, something quite out of the ordinary happened.
I'm having an emergency here. 2 planes collided on the runway of Heathrow, from which my flight was scheduled. All flights have been called off.
Back then, we had no idea that this investigation would lead the psychics to a tragedy that shook the entire world.
I was working with the photo of Tetiana's family, and the spirit of Princess Diana appeared in front of me.
Princess Diana? That's amazing! What connection could there be between an ordinary family from a Ukrainian village and the British princess?
She said, "She who you are trying to help is suffering from the same thing as I did. Help me, and I will help you."
My book told me, the one who collects heads is already at the doorstep. Hurry up! We've got to see Tetiana as soon as possible. Once I finished talking to Anna, my jinns told me something strange. Death can be stopped when you open the tomb. Could they be referring to Princess Diana's grave?
Princess of Wales died over 25 years ago in a car accident in Paris. Her crypt is located in the Spencer family seat in Northamptonshire. But what does all this have to do with Tetiana and her family? Olena Kurilova agreed to help Kayal Alekperov.
I had a strange dream of a man in a red cloak or cape. And he was holding some kind of letter in his hand. It seemed like a plan for a murder. What happened here? Blood. Look, blood. Do you have a first aid kit?
As soon as the clairvoyant mentioned some deadly force, the metal curtain rod fell on Kayal Alekperov and cut his face.
It's okay. It's just a scratch. But now I'm even more worried about this family. We need to tell Tetiana to take her children to a safe place during the investigation tomorrow.
The next day, on their way to meet with Tetiana, Kayal Alekperov shocked everyone even more with a vision he'd had.
Olena, I can't believe it. The spirit of the Bulgarian clairvoyant Vanga visited me in a dream. It was the first time in my life when she appeared to me, and she said a strange phrase. Unveil the secret of the little girl. Her secret brings death.
If I'm not mistaken. Vanga predicted Diana's death.
Olena Kurilova is not mistaken. On the day the whole world celebrated the wedding of Prince Charles and Diana Spencer, the Bulgarian mystic predicted Lady D's death.
This wedding will kill the girl. We will die together. She will learn about my death, but we will die together.
Coincidence or not, but the world-famous mystic and Lady D died in the same month, August. Vanga died in 1996, and Diana the following later.
Hello, Kayal? I'm on my way to Highgrove House, where Diana lived with Prince Charles. Maybe the energy of that place will somehow clarify what all these strange visions mean.
Meanwhile, Tetiana meets Kayal Alekperov and Olena Kurilova near her home. Her husband and children are currently with their relatives in a neighboring village.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello? My djinns say a strange phrase. The baby was supposed to die. Wait, Tetiana, this is your eldest son. He was supposed to die when he was little.
The labor went very difficult. He spent more than a week in intensive care. All the doctors said our only hope was God.
The expectant mother went through all the necessary examinations according to the plan. There were no threats to her or the baby. However, she couldn't give birth on her own, so the doctors induced labor. Because of this, the boy suffered a serious head injury.
The same force that is now hunting her husband almost took Tetiana's eldest son at birth. So, it's not the spirit of her brother-in-law that poses a threat to her family. A dead man, who seems to be bound to a building, is trying to take your son.
Could the answer lie in your house?
Let's go inside. I see the spirit of this dead man going to the children's room. He approaches the small crib and places his hand on your younger son's head.
Yes. He sometimes gets so exhausted before he finally falls asleep. He says something stares at him.
Does this mean the deadly threat to Tetiana's youngest son as well?
At that moment, I had a vision. It was like a collector gathering the heads of dead people, and a shelf with human skulls.
The spirit isn't just hunting Tetiana's family. He needs their heads.
What's that?
In the next room, the framed photo of Tetiana's daughter, Valeria, fell off the wall.
Your only daughter is also in danger. I feel that this spirit almost took her to the other side, and it had something to do with her head.
She grew up absolutely healthy. Then she had a common cold, and she started having headaches. The MRI showed a cyst that required surgery.
The doctors said that the girl had a cyst in the frontal nasal sinus, and it was in an advanced stage. The surgery to remove it was extremely dangerous for a little child.
I was so scared. I prayed all the time.
Fortunately, the surgery was successful, and little Valeria was miraculously saved. However, according to the doctors, the disease might return any time.
At that moment, I saw Vanga again, but it wasn't a vision. Her spirit appeared in front of me. She says, "A man is involved in the accident the woman was in." But I don't understand which accident she means.
The death card. A woman overturns. It's you, Tetiana.
It was winter. I was driving home from somewhere, and something ran onto the road. Something like a dog.
It wasn't a dog, but an evil killer spirit that caused the accident. The woman also suffered a head injury.
I had a concussion.
Tetiana was driving herself. She's a highly experienced driver. She says if she hadn't reacted in time, she would have died.
I sensed that the spirit hunting this family was bound to Tetiana. but I couldn't understand who he was.
The spirit of Princess Diana contacted me again. She says the accident was planned.
Tetiana also had an accident recently and almost died.
She who you are trying to help is suffering from the same thing as I did. Could it be that Diana was in an accident because of the same force that is hunting Tetiana's family?
My jinns are showing me a cross. It was in your car.
There, where the seatbelt is, a cross-shaped stain appeared, like something was poured on there.
Tetiana suffered serious head injuries because her seatbelt broke just before the trip. When she inspected her car later, she saw a strange cross-shaped mark on the belt.
It wasn't there when we bought the car or later on, and then it appeared.
It was a death mark, left by the spirit.
Diana is also showing me a seatbelt, saying it was the murder weapon.
According to the experts, Princess Diana's fatal injuries were caused by a broken seatbelt. Even more strangely, during her entire stay in Paris, Lady Di traveled in a car where everything was in working order. But on the evening of the fatal trip, the car for Diana and her friend was replaced for some reason just before they were to leave.
Is it possible that the tragic car accident that killed Diana wasn't a coincidence at all? But how did it happen then? And how is it connected to the accident Tetiana was in?
I see Vanga's spirit again. She says something strange. The dead warned about death. Your father knows about this, but he is already in the other world.
Dad died from lung cancer 9 years ago.
Did your father disturb the dead?
It turned out that Tetiana's father built the foundation of the house from tombstones, which he personally brought from the nearby Catholic cemetery.
When Dad was already sick, he took my husband and said, "Look, these are monuments, parts of graves. Take them apart and take them away from here. They bring nothing but misfortune."
Is it possible that the spirits of the dead, whose graves were disturbed, are now seeking revenge on the family?
Did you live in that house?
I did.
With your family?
Yes, yes.
We need to go there.
On the way there, Tetiana called her mother and informed her about the arrival of the psychics. After her husband's death, the woman lives in the house alone.
What's your name?
Lyudmila.
The pain your father felt before his death was the price for disturbing the graves. But in the other world, he can't find peace because of your broken heart. Lyudmila, you loved him so much, but he loved another woman his entire life.
Yes, they used to date.
It turned out that before meeting Lyudmila, Tetiana's father was madly in love with another girl, and he was even going to marry her.
Her name was Lydia.
Vanga is telling me the mother's prohibition ruined destiny.
Yes, my mother-in-law.
Your husband's mother forbade him to marry the girl he loved.
It turned out that Lydia was from a poor family, and the young man's mother wanted a better match for her son.
I worked at the hospital, and she wanted him to marry a nurse.
To find the key to solving these two stories, Anna Galliers works in the estate where Diana lived, and she senses that the mother's prohibition was also involved in the princess's death.
Diana says, "I hoped he would love me. But it turned out he hated me because his true sweetheart wasn't around. But it wasn't my fault. It was his mother's decision."
Prince Charles wanted to marry Camilla Parker Bowles, who he really loved. But his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, claimed that she didn't have the necessary title for marriage, and as such, she was categorically against her candidacy. Then she forced her son to marry Diana Spencer from a well-known British family, who was related to Winston Churchill, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Vanga says, find the secret child. What does it mean?
That woman your husband loved. Lydia. Was she pregnant?
Yes, she was pregnant. By him. She gave birth to a boy, but she abandoned him.
Lydia signed a refusal of the baby because she couldn't raise her son alone, nor had she told his father about her pregnancy.
So is it the secret child Vanga was telling Kayal about?
We couldn't even imagine how similar the stories of Tetiana's and the British princesses' families were, as, according to Anna Galliers, Diana also had a secret child.
The spirit of Princess Diana is telling me, because of what they did to my body, no one found out about my unborn child.
Was the British princess pregnant? It turned out that Diana's body was embalmed the day after her death, which prevented the forensic experts from conducting a thorough examination. It still remains a mystery who gave this order. Only relatives have the right to make decisions like that. And the only close relative who was with Diana in the hospital was her husband, Charles.
The spirit of the princess is telling me my daughter was the reason for my murder. Does this mean the car accident that killed Diana wasn't an accident at all, but a murder?
It's hard to believe, but a Muslim man, an Egyptian heir to millions, Dodi Al-Fayed, also died in the same accident as Lady Di. There were rumors that he and the British princess had an affair. The birth of a child from him in the royal family could have caused a real scandal.
Diana's spirit is showing me a picture of a man in a red cloak. He knows the truth. But who is he?
I see the spirit in the red cloak over there, in the window. This is the spirit that is hunting you and your family. He's beckoning me to follow him.
Let's go.
This is an ancient crypt, but why did the spirit bring the psychic here?
Many people are buried here, and they're all of the noble, wealthy lineage.
I saw the red-clad man from my vision near the crypt. He was holding a letter. It was a death list.
Diana is telling me that the man in red has a death letter. It contains the plan for her murder.
We couldn't believe what we just heard. However, 2 weeks after the psychic's investigation, Paul Burrell, Princess Diana's butler and close friend, by a strange coincidence gave a letter to the press in which Diana indeed wrote that she would be killed.
This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car.
The circumstances of that night indeed raise many questions. All the surveillance cameras in the tunnel where Diana crashed were off.
Charles was indeed suspected of Diana's murder. Before her death, Lady Di began actively talking about his infidelities and extravagance, revealing facts about their family life to the press.
Strangely, when we found a photo of Diana's friend who gave her letter to the press, we were surprised to see that the man in the photo was wearing something that looked like a red cloak. However, the princess's friend is alive, while the psychics are talking about someone dead.
We need inside. Death can be stopped when you open the tomb.
He's in there and his family is with him. And he's crying.
According to historians, the remains of the family of the famous Polish voivode Fryderyk Sapieha rest in this crypt. This is incredible. As in all the portraits, the man is depicted wearing a red cloak. But how is he connected to Tetiana and her family?
Diana's spirit says, "Thank you for uncovering the mystery of my murder. I came here for a reason. My remains were disturbed."
Some British media found that vandals have repeatedly opened Princess Diana's crypt.
The mother of 3 you are trying to save is suffering from the same thing as I did, because of the disturbed remains.
I see you as a little girl. You are holding a skull. It's from this very crypt. Did you take something from here?
I did. We were only kids. A friend of mine disturbed this crypt. He took out a skull and walked around with it, dancing.
And you played with a skull, too. I see it. You took something red from here.
A lamp.
What was your friend's name?
Volodymyr.
He's not alive.
He simply vanished without a trace when he was 13.
The boy's family still doesn't know what happened to him. He rode his bicycle to his grandmother's village and disappeared. Neither he nor the bike was ever found.
Those who disturb the dead must pay for it. The relatives of this man in red have no peace in the other world because you disturbed their remains. And that's why your relatives suffer from head injuries. Because you desecrated the skulls of the dead. The first to be punished for this was your friend. And you and your relatives could be next.
I beg you, please help us.
You need to ask for forgiveness with all your heart.
I'll perform a ritual so that those whose remains are buried here can now find peace.
With all my soul, I apologize for disturbing you.
Blow out the candle. The key, the lock, the tongue. Amen.
Now you must bring here a lamp that is similar to the one you took.
Thank you.
What an incredible story. It's amazing how human destinies can be intertwined even after death. If this story impressed you, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Many more amazing investigations are coming up. The spirit of a woman is trying to protect her son from deadly danger. Who's posing a danger to the boy? Don't miss out. The mother's ghost will reveal a horrifying secret hidden in a coffin. This is Psychic Investigations, a channel of true and amazing stories. Here, people who call themselves clairvoyants investigate shocking criminal cases and mystical anomalies. Five in the morning, the project's psychics, Yana Pasinkova and Kayal Alekperov, were coming back to their hotel after another investigation. However, they had no chance to rest.
Yana, wait. I see the ghost of a woman. She's calling me. Do you see her?
No, I don't see anything.
She's very beautiful. She has dark hair and big blue eyes. She says, "Save my little son."
Who is she? Kayal. I don't understand what's going on.
She says the secret lies in the open coffin, and she's asking us to find the house behind the red scorpion.
Could that be a name, for instance, of a local cafe?
There's a cafe shop called Scorpion in this town.
That's where we need to go.
Let's rest up and head there with renewed energy tomorrow.
Morning of the following day, the cafe shop called Scorpion.
The building we're looking for should be behind the store. Excuse me, we're experts from Psychic Investigations. A spirit of a young woman called us here. She was dark-haired and blue-eyed. She died recently, and she had a little son.
Her sister lives upstairs.
Thank you. Let's go. I have a feeling this apartment is the one we need. Hello.
Hello, my name is Yana Pasinkova, and this is Kayal Alekperov.
Olena.
Irina.
There's not a trace of surprise on the women's faces. Yet, we couldn't fathom why they reacted so strangely to the psychic's visit.
It feels as if your sister informed you that we would come.
Yes, she appeared in my dreams twice.
Incredibly, in her dream, Olena's late sister foretold that the psychics would come to see her.
May we come in? And could we see your daughter's photo? I saw her exactly like that. Only her hair was dark, though.
She dyed her hair on the day of her death.
This striking blue-eyed beauty's name was Yulia Kozak. As it turned out, she passed away on January 19, 2018. She died in the apartment she rented, in the presence of her young son, her husband, his sister, and her boyfriend. The sister of Yulia's husband, Svetlana, couldn't forget those final moments of her sister-in-law's life.
It still hurts to recall that day. She was trembling terribly and rolled her eyes. It looked like some kind of stroke.
According to Svetlana, that day, she and her husband came to visit their nephew. Everyone was sitting in the kitchen, talking, when suddenly Yulia felt unwell and went to the bathroom, and there she began suffocating.
She made a rasping sound, clenched her teeth, and seemed to swallow her tongue.
Svetlana says it looked like an epilepsy attack. She and Yulia's husband desperately tried to help her, but in vain. The doctors who arrived on the scene declared the young mother dead. The official cause was asphyxiation.
My brother pleaded with the doctors. "Please help her, she can't die."
She was 5 years older than me. It still seems to me that she just went somewhere. I can't believe she's truly gone.
When I think she's gone, I don't want anything. I can't live. I merely exist.
I sympathize with her mother and her sister, as I'm a mother too. And I accepted their daughter into our family and treated her as my own child.
She was a very beautiful girl. She ran her household well and was a loving mother.
She was like a sister to me. I miss her terribly.
According to her family, Sviatoslav, Yulia's husband, withdrew into himself completely.
For him, there was only Yulia, period. He loved her deeply. He'll love his wife as long as he lives.
But the one who misses Yulia the most is her little son, David.
I feel so sorry for him. I can't even imagine what he's been through.
He thinks his mom is alive and that she's in the hospital. He believes that as soon as she recovers, she'll be back.
He just keeps asking for his mom, and those eyes of his...
The boy is always silent and very frightened, and it's not just because of his mother's death.
He's constantly frightened.
My book told me that the boy saw something terrifying at home, and those things were the cause of his mother's death. Then I thought perhaps some otherworldly force was involved in Yulia's death. I sense that your daughter's spirit has been haunting you since her demise.
Mom has seen her many times, and once she told me, "Olena, I think I'm losing my mind."
The family say that lately. Something inexplicable has been going on in their apartment. Clocks stop, windows open on their own.
David's remote-controlled toy car. Just imagine, it moved around the apartment on its own.
And recently, deceased sister appeared to Olena in the middle of the night.
I opened my eyes and saw her standing right in front of me. I was shocked.
I sense that Yulia was healthy and didn't suffer from epilepsy.
Yes, she wasn't epileptic.
My book told me, seek the one who left the fatal mark on the woman's throat. Were there any bruises on your daughter's throat?
Yes. She had a bruise on her throat. There were 2 marks, one here and another, I think, here.
No supernatural entity was involved in the young mother's death.
But what happened then?
People in white coats gave her some medication shortly before her demise.
Yes.
Was it an ambulance team?
Yes, they saved her the first time.
It turned out that the ambulance came to the woman twice that day. According to her family, the first time the medics were called was because Yulia began complaining of a severe headache and dizziness.
She said she wasn't feeling well, and we measured her blood pressure. It was high, 180 by 140, and Sviatoslav called an ambulance.
The first ambulance arrived at around 7. They gave her a magnesium injection for the blood pressure and left.
As I was looking at Yulia's photo, it became increasingly clear that the young woman had been murdered.
According to the witnesses to Yulia's death, the attack occurred after the visit of the first medical team.
She fell on her side and collapsed face first on the floor. Her face and neck began to swell significantly.
Terrified by what they saw, Yulia's family called another ambulance.
I see fear in the eyes of Yulia's husband. He knows she's dying and is desperately trying to save her.
The 3 of them tried to save her.
but they failed.
Svetlana says that at that moment, the doctors came to the apartment again.
They tried to defibrillate her heart and put an oxygen mask on her. Sviatoslav was right there, but then blood started coming into the oxygen mask from her mouth.
After that, the doctors stopped resuscitation efforts and pronounced Yulia's death.
Sviatoslav, like a helpless child, cried out, "Yulia, I love you more than life. Yulia, why did you leave me?"
Why did Yulia's death occur right after the medics' assistance? Could the paramedics be responsible for her demise?
Svetlana texted me, saying that Yulia was gone. When I arrived there, I shouted at the doctors, "How? How did you not save her?"
We decided to speak to a doctor who was on the call that evening to find out exactly how he tried to save Yulia.
Artificial lung ventilation, defibrillation, closed chest compressions, adrenaline administration, all the procedures as per the instructions.
Then why didn't all these measures help?
I can't say for sure.
I sensed it clearly that the young woman was killed. Could her death be a terrible mistake by the doctors?
This is shocking, but the forensic medical expert's report indicates that Yulia was strangled. Could the emergency doctors really have strangled her in front of her relatives and husband?
Where is Sviatoslav, Yulia's husband, now?
He was detained.
Is he accused of his wife's death?
Yes, but the investigation is still underway.
After the pathologist's conclusions, the police summoned Sviatoslav for an interrogation, but he never returned home.
I approached them and asked where Sviatoslav was, and they said that he had killed his wife. It felt like the ground was going to open up, and I'd fall right in.
My brother is innocent. He loved her so deeply, and he cried bitterly when she died.
Yulia's sister still can't recover. She says that when she heard Sviatoslav was accused of murder, she was simply stupefied. She vividly remembers how he fell head over heels in love with her sister.
My mother worked at the market. She had a stand there, and across from us was Sviatoslav's parents' stand. And so he and Yulia met and started communicating.
Back then, no one could imagine that this love story would end in such a terrible tragedy.
After Sviatoslav was arrested, I lost faith in our justice system.
10 officers beat him at the police station.
Clairvoyants are my last hope.
I'm counting on psychics to reveal the truth. So, my brother can come back home to his son.
Yulia's husband denies all accusations.
Yes, you said she felt unwell in the bathroom.
She felt unwell in the bathroom and collapsed. I'm telling you honestly.
We needed to sort this situation out thoroughly. Irina, your daughter's spirit is here.
It's unbelievable, but right at that moment, Yulia's photo fell from the shelf.
Did you see it fall?
My jinns are telling me that an innocent person is suffering due to Yulia's murder. I'm not sure who they mean. Could it be Yulia's husband? Can we see the apartment in which your daughter died?
It's not far from here, a 2-minute walk.
But it turned out that the apartment previously rented by Yulia's family now has new tenants.
They're at work.
The clairvoyants are working at the apartment door.
On the day of the young mother's death, there was a heated argument behind those doors. I heard Yulia's cries and another woman's voice. From my impressions, it had something to do with jealousy.
What woman could it have been? Was it Svetlana, Yulia's husband's sister?
The woman I heard was connected to Yulia's death.
A crowd has gathered outside the building. Upon learning about the psychic's arrival, Sviatoslav's family, his sister and mother, rushed here immediately.
We're accused of the murder, but there was no murder.
No murder? I'll strangle you. You are a wretch.
Irina, calm down.
It turns out both Yulia's sister and mother believe that her death wasn't just accidental, but resulted from an argument.
God, the investigation proved she had been strangled.
Irina, calm down. Svetlana witnessed Yulia's death. Let's hear her out.
We were sitting in the kitchen talking.
I distinctly heard an argument and your cries.
There was no argument. I was just shouting, Yulia, Yulia, what's going on?
Lies.
Do you want me to bring David?
It turns out that Yulia's family spoke to little David many times about the tragedy, trying to understand what had truly happened.
He started saying, Mommy felt bad, and Daddy started saving Mommy. My mother couldn't bear it and said, David, they strangled your mom. Who did this? What did you see? But he won't say anything, like he's been hypnotized.
My hair stood on end. Clearly, the mother is suffering due to her daughter's death. But how can you talk to a little boy who lost his mother in such a way? Leave the boy alone. He's just a child.
I'll never forgive you for Yulia. I raised her. I even gave you a well-behaved doll. When I handed her over, she was pretty, like a doll. I organized a wedding and paid $800 for the dress.
You speak of your late daughter as if she were an object.
This is horrifying. But what really happened to Yulia?
Svetlana, there was an argument in the apartment, and you know what it was about. The conflict started over a relocation.
Sviatoslav and Yulia weren't a couple anymore. They had even stopped living together.
Yes, they quarreled, but that was their life. He couldn't live without her.
According to the family and close friends, Yulia and Sviatoslav were not officially divorced. However, for the past few months, she had lived separately from her husband and rented an apartment in this very building.
She decided to break up with him and started living separately.
Not long before her death, Yulia decided to move to another town, where she found a job in her field.
She made the decision to leave. Our mother lives there. She found a 2-bedroom apartment for Yulia and helped her secure a job at a bank.
Yulia wanted to break free from Sviatoslav altogether. It was all because of his terrible jealousy.
He beats her severely, and she flees barefoot with the boy in her arms.
Yes, it happened. She ran to the neighbors, and he chased her there at night to beat her. He even took an axe, as she told us.
Yulia said, Mom, he'll kill me someday. And that's exactly what happened.
Yulia's friends and family say that Sviatoslav's love was turning into a fantastical obsession with each passing year.
His eyes, as Yulia put it, turned glassy when he started beating her, and once he began doing it, he couldn't stop.
When he realized that she was preparing to go to another town, something snapped in him. He pushed her.
Svetlana, that's why you were in Yulia's apartment that day. You and your brother came to persuade her to stay, didn't you?
I didn't hear that.
At that moment, I understood why the ambulance arrived first time. Her blood pressure had risen due to the argument and stress as they were pressuring her to stay.
It turned out that Yulia's family had spoken to a paramedic from the ambulance.
She mentioned that there was a tearful young woman there. The man said it was simply smeared mascara and it wasn't anything serious. They wanted to hospitalize her, but he refused.
Svetlana, during that argument, your brother raised his hand against his wife once again, and you're aware of it.
He hits her severely.
She looked disfigured. Her lips were bruised and bloodied, and her eyes were so swollen.
She has bruises all over her body.
Sviatoslav beat her so hard that there were marks left on his own hands.
This is incredible. When we reviewed the courtroom video again, we clearly saw that Sviatoslav's hands were indeed bruised.
The boy was growing up, witnessing the bruises on his mother left by your brother, and you both know about this.
It seems the psychics aren't mistaken.
They were always arguing every day. Mom would call the police and lock herself in her room. I'd hide under the bed or the table.
That's why the boy was terrified. It wasn't mysticism, but a nightmarish reality he lived in.
I see a picture of Sviatoslav gripping Yulia's throat. He squeezed too hard. The whole epileptic seizure version is a complete lie. This is precisely why Yulia's spirit came to us. If they acquit Sviatoslav, the boy might end up staying with him.
Little David is pleading with me. Don't send me to them. Don't you believe me? Let me take you to him right now.
Irina, stop it, will you? The boy said those things because you frightened him with the idea of sending David to his father's family. Yulia didn't want that, which is why she visited you in your dreams. Isn't that right?
I did see her in a dream. It only happened once. She was crying and pleading. Mom, don't give him away.
Unbelievably, our journalists accidentally uncovered even more horrifying statements that Irina made to her grandson.
You see, the boy, I asked him, look, you're alive, but your mother isn't. Your mother was killed. You'll soon be 8. How come you didn't protect my daughter?
Irina, stop before it's too late, or your daughter's spirit will stop you. My book told me that Svetlana would also face consequences for her lies, and Yulia's spirit and the open coffin she mentioned at the beginning of the investigation would play a role in that.
After the investigation, we understood what the open coffin implied. With permission from her family, the police exhumed Yulia's body. After forensic examinations, Yulia Kozak's death is now being considered a group murder. Both Yulia's husband, Sviatoslav, and his sister, Svetlana, are suspects.
Family is incredibly important to each of us. However, keeping your family at the cost of one's own life and a child's well-being is not worth it.
It all defies belief. This is what fanatical love turned into a true obsession can lead to. If you're impressed by the story, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Many more amazing investigations are coming up.